All right, guys, welcome into HiBruiNation, the unofficial home of your Boston Bruins. We're going to get started right away. I'm Goosey, as always, joined by the Chavo himself and Mr. Hattrick. We got a good show for you guys tonight. We're going to talk about the state of the team as we always do. Contenders or pretenders, team needs, health concerns, our Big Bad Bruin, and we're going to touch upon the stadium jerseys that were released awkwardly. I think it was during the Flyers and Golden Knights game on Thursday, which whoever gave that go ahead has been absolutely crazy because there's nothing more that I wanted to tune into on a Thursday night other than watching the Flyers and Vegas Golden Knights. But anyway, we're going to get right into it. Guys, the Bruins are 2-1 this week. They are 19-14-0 for 38 points overall. What are the vibes like? How are we feeling? I know it's Sunday. We're recording after that horrific loss in Minnesota. So barring that, how are we feeling and how are you guys this holiday season?
Pretty good. Happy to be back. Was a little under the weather last week, so appreciate you guys picking up the weight, but the hat trick is back. And yeah, Bruins they're fighting for it, man. It's a matter of how sustainable this can be. There's a lot of good bright spots, but we saw some holes poked through tonight. I mean, to be fair, Sway had a not great game, but he was kind of left out to dry. But I think the vibes are pretty good, Mr. Chavo.
I'm feeling like a Grinch. What a way to finish off a strong week, right? Like you give glimpses of hope, and then you just kind of get pumped in Minnesota. I don't know what it is. It's like the road trip. I mean, you had an extra day's rest. I don't know, it just that wasn't a good way to finish off the road trip, especially if you lose by 1 or 2 goals, whatever. But you got pumped from beginning to end, and yeah, just
Quinn Hughes effect. It has to be the Quinn Hughes effect, right, Cam?
I mean, that first of all, that trade was absolutely insane. Quinn Hughes to Minnesota. I got to admit to you guys that I did not have that on my bingo card. I mean,
drop that on a Friday at 7 p.m. at 8 p.m. randomly.
Yeah, the package was huge. It was Marco Rossi, Zeev Buium, another forward. His name escapes me, and a first-round pick for Quinn Hughes. I mean, it was a good package. Vancouver definitely got something good in return. They definitely got the replacement in Quinn Hughes, but that was nuts. I know I was talking to Steve, on Friday, and we were debating whether or not he was going to play on Sunday. And, of course he ends up playing, but wow. And he scored, you know what I mean? So that's definitely difficult to have. I'm with you guys. The vibes for me are high still, because it's still a 2-1 week. The Bruins did get pumped in Minnesota for 6. The final score in that game ended up being 6-2. It wasn't a good game all around, but it is what it is, there. But, we're in a playoff spot. That's a hopeful. But the one thing I want to say with respect to that is that the points in the East are extremely tight. The first place team in the conference is Carolina with 44 points. And then the bottom team is the Buffalo Sabres with 30. But, outside of that, the rest of it's pretty freaking close. I mean, separated by 4 to 6 points, for playoff contention. So, things to keep in mind there.
Also, I can't believe we lost that way to a Minnesota team that played last night.
Oh, I didn't even realize they played last night too.
It was a back-to-back, the second half of a back-to-back. I don't know. It just.
Who did they play last night?
Oh, I don't know.
Hold on, give me a second. I can't remember. I was looking at the schedule and I did see that they did play last night. Give me a second.
Take a quick Google look. Oh, yeah, they played the Senators yesterday, and that was a 3-2 win. So, yeah. I mean, yeah. So you're playing a back-to-back at home. I mean, that's not the worst, but as a turnaround. But yeah.
Also, they're on a 4-game win streak too, so it's like adding Hughes
and adding Hughes to that as well. I mean, that's going to be a pretty well-oiled machine. I mean, listen, I think Minnesota sees how competitive their division is. I mean, and tight the West is as well, similar to the East. But they see the big names like Colorado, Dallas, Vegas. Then they look at their roster and they're like, what do we have to compete against it? Not a lot. So I think Hughes is an immediate impact. We saw it tonight. And, that's one of the best puck movers in the league. It is like watching butter be spread. It's not a great analogy, but he's very smooth.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was just like talking to Cam about it. Just whoa. Didn't have that on my bingo card. It was just I figured that he would get dealt to New Jersey or whatnot, but there's still time for him to go there next year, or even sign there at the end of the season next year. But I mean, to me, it just strikes as a Minnesota win now type situation, right? It's just kind of unbelievable. I think it was a slight overpay, but I can't believe the league kind of let that slip. But then, it is one of the Hughes brothers, who's probably top 3 defensemen in the league. So, I mean, you got to pay to play. So it's just one of those things where, we see it already in effect, and they're already looking much better than they have been. So, what do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, Quinn Hughes was obviously a massive gain. I mean, you have if you look at it, guys, like that decor is disgusting.
It's
have
filthy
the pairings. Yeah, you have the pairings of Quinn Hughes with Brock Faber. I almost just said Matt Boldy, but he's a forward. Then you have Spurgeon and Brodin, and then you have Hunt and Jiricek. Or I think they played Bogosian, but Bogosian's also an option. But that top 4 is absolutely nasty. Probably one of the best in the NHL. Top 3, I would argue. And I agree with you guys. You got to compete with Vegas and Colorado, particularly Colorado, because they're on an absolute heater. But I mean, good for Minnesota for landing him. I didn't have them landing Quinn Hughes. I had Detroit or the Flyers because it's a little bit closer to, New Jersey. I didn't think New Jersey had the assets to get him, but the rumor was that, they were in the mix in some capacity, but the asking price was too much. And after looking at what Minnesota gave up, there was no way they were going to be able to match it. I definitely agree with you guys. Tonight was a bad night. There's really not much to say out of the Minnesota game for the Bruins, because ultimately it was the last game of the road trip. The Bruins were on a 4-game winning streak. You had to figure they were going to lose at some point, and it just so happened to be at Minnesota. I am disappointed that we didn't get to see Swayman versus Wallstat, but I'm just glad that actually I don't even know if I'm glad. I'm fumbling on my own words here. Gustafsson played insane too, so I mean, tons of credit to him. I mean, the Bruins lose 6-2, like I said, and you just got to put that game in the rearview mirror and continue to go on.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, a little bit of a geeky scare. We kind of all lit up the group chat for a sec. We were like, "Oh no, this can't be happening." And then he wasn't on the bench for the start of the second, and then the panic started to set in more. But then he came out at one point and he finished the game. I think he's just gonna have a big old bruise probably tomorrow moving on. But good to see he came back. A little bit of a scare there. That is our guy who has been on a heater and then leading the charge for us. So definitely glad he wasn't too banged up.
Yeah, same. I mean, I immediately lit up the group chat. I was like, oh no, like I was in pure panic.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. It was bad. But I guess you want to transition to Winnipeg after that. I mean, the boys were really buzzing on that night. Pasta had a hell of a night. Charlie McAvoy returns. With the fishbowl, he looked pretty decent out there too.
That was huge. Just to cut in real quick, that was huge.
Yeah, I mean, the team just kind of looked like they were firing on all cylinders. And granted, their backup goalie starting right now. It is what it is. But it's still a Winnipeg team that's still pretty much up there in top 5 in the league. So, I mean, it was a good all around win.
Yeah. A little bit of a come down from them last year from being the President's Trophy winners, but they're still very competitive. But yeah,
they're definitely struggling without Connor Hellebuck, and who wouldn't? Because Hellebuck has been the Vezina candidate for the last 2-3 years. So I mean, I'm going to take the Winnipeg game with a little bit of a grain of salt. They still scored 3 on you. Korpisalo started that game. I'm not blaming that on Korpisalo at all. But you definitely saw the goaltending be a huge impact, against Winnipeg, so not in their favor. I can't remember if it was Eric Comrie in net or not, but they're without arguably one of the best goaltenders in hockey. So that's gonna be a big thing. And, your defense needs to step up. That night, the Bruins just got the better of them. They didn't pull away until the third period, though. Like, if you think about it this way, the Bruins didn't pull away until the third, which, the way I see it, better late than never. In a game like that, and especially in a close game. Unlike, the game tonight against Minnesota, where you didn't see that. You saw a little bit of a push, but even through most of the game, I would say Boston looked like they were pressuring Minnesota better than Minnesota was pressuring Boston, and Boston was just softer on the puck. And I felt like, it was the opposite in Winnipeg, where Boston was stronger on the puck. It was just, I would chop Winnipeg up as a good overall team win. It was good to see that our team was mostly healthy. The only problem is you lose Aspirot and you lose Arvidsson.
Injury bug continues. Definitely continues.
Same shit, different day. His speed.
Guys,
Arvidsson.
For sure. I agree with that 100%. Again, there were good things and bad things this week. The good being the win against St. Louis, the win against Winnipeg, and obviously the bad being Minnesota. I really didn't think there were that many errors in the St. Louis or Winnipeg game. I think, the Bruins came out, played their game, got to their game faster than either of those teams did. And I think it was I can't remember who said the quote. I think it was Steves that had said that quote. When the team gets to their game faster than you end up losing the game, and that's very true. Why don't we pivot over to St. Louis, unless you guys have other things to say with respect to Winnipeg? But I will say this with respect to Winnipeg. Pastrnak, huge factor in that game. Massive.
Same as in St. Louis, I have for some notes here, David Pastrnak on the third line. Oh yeah. Why not?
Yep.
It worked.
And Sturm had a quote where he he'd mentioned, having David back, it's a good problem. Your roster is getting filled out more, and you can kind of play with your lines a little bit. And I think that's what he was doing with this game. He said, we had to think a little bit about that one, how we're going to put the lines together. We thought that lineup would give us the best chance to win a hockey game. So I think that's credit to Sturm's ability to coach, and put together the right guys, and the guys trusting him and wanting to play for him, and it was cool to see the young guys play with Pasta as well. As Pasta said, it's just three kids together playing hockey, having fun. I'm paraphrasing that, but I think they got something out of playing with Pasta, and Pasta got something out of playing with them, which was just some fun. So.
Oh, and to be honest with you, it's one of those things where, hey, like, can these guys play with a caliber player like Pasta, right? But also, it comes down to Sturm just straight up managing his minutes, right? It's his first game back. You gotta manage those minutes. You don't
Definitely
want him to re-injure himself and all that good stuff. So, obviously that worked because, if you're going from St. Louis managing minutes to what he did on whatever Thursday against Winnipeg, just an easy transition for him, kind of give him a game of transition back into, playing, and it worked out, and I'm happy he's back.
I want to say this with St. Louis too. I'm glad that they put him on the third line, because it also got Minton going, and then you had the goals largely come from, I believe it was 4. We won 4-2, 4-1. If I'm not mistaken. I can't remember the exact score of that game off the top of my head. You think I'd be better at writing it down?
5-2.
Yeah,
5-2. Yeah, Zaka got an empty netter right at the end to make it 5-2.
That's right. Thank you. And the bottom 6 shined. Kostelik with 2, Minton with 2. That's something you need to see in some of those games. And Steve said earlier, on earlier podcasts rather, that St. Louis is hot or cold, but now they're also dealing with a lot of injuries too, like Jordan Kyrou's out. So, how do they approach that? And I think the Boston Bruins went in and got the job done. Swayman absolutely had a stellar game, that game as well. And then you finally get to see the bottom 6 break through, and you kind of need that. And so it just goes to show you that when you have a scoring winger down on maybe your third line, good things happen from that line, because Minton is a responsible two-way forward. Jeannot is a bit of a guy who can create space, and you just need the guy who's able to finish. But even if he's not finishing, it's still an impactful player that the other team needs to respect. And I think the fourth line, just for us that night, was just the better fourth line. They won their shifts. You know what I mean? And Kostelic was just an absolute animal. So huge respect to him.
Yeah, he'd mentioned after the St. Louis game, saying it is definitely just really fun playing hockey right now. It doesn't really matter who I am playing with or where in the lineup you are. Everybody's valued here, so that's the biggest thing. Just having a blast right now. I think that kind of encompasses what you're saying, Cam, and what we're kind of the point we're getting to. They're having fun. Obviously, tonight wasn't that fun, but they're it doesn't really matter who is with who. Whether it's Pasta on the third line or Castellic playing wherever. But yeah, there's a value to everyone, and it's a credit to Sturm for getting the most out of his players, and knowing how to manage minutes, especially for someone like Pasta, as Steve was saying. That was his first go again for a little bit, so he took a little bit of a different spin, for a game, but it worked out in everyone's favor.
Despite some of the losses that you'll see, like Minnesota, the ones that are rough, again, it was a 6-2 loss, but the score again does not really show how the game went.
Yeah.
You look at 62 and you're like, oh, well, they only lost by 4. Maybe that's not as bad. Maybe they just got outpaced in the third period. Like you look at those scenarios. Like, again, if you just look at a score, you can run through a whole bunch of things in your mind of what could have gone wrong. But barring those like games, because I think most of them have been few and far between, where you see the Bruins get pumped like that. And with respect to it, this team's been fun to watch.
So fun.
Right, guys? Like, I don't have any expectations for this team. I didn't coming into the season. So I'm having a lot of fun just sitting back and watching the hockey. Watching the hockey. Like, geez.
Watching the hockey.
No, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, even I was talking to my buddies about this, and he's like, honestly, this is probably the most fun I've had watching Bruins game in the past couple seasons. Like, this is the most entertaining Bruins team to watch aside from the record-setting year. It just seems like
the vibes are high.
The vibes are high, but I wouldn't even say that they're high. It's just you never know what you're going to get, and they're grinding teams down and pulling out wins. And somehow, you still have a positive record, and you're playing above 500 hockey, and it's just they're not kind of it's a starking difference between last year and this year, where it kind of games got away from them very easily, and this year they're for the most part staying in it and winning.
Definitely, in that St. Louis game too, Sturm mentioned, he wasn't surprised by the way his team showed up, and that, that's alluded to kind of what, we've been seeing with the team this season, despite the lineup changes, despite players being out, despite Pasta being out, and McAvoy suffering a, not good looking injury, the camaraderie and buy-in they've been building all season. And this past Tuesday and Thursday, was an example of when it all comes together, For Sturm, he said, for me, it's just all about character. That's what we have in this room. Some guys had to go down a line, and they didn't complain at all. They just got to work. They just got the job done today. This is what good teams do. They don't complain. They just work. They have the right attitude. They have the right coach to get the most out of them. And, I think Sweeney had some flack going into this season about his decision with going with Sturm about, just another former Bruin, or, holding on to whatever meatheads are saying online. But, they took a little bit of a chance on him, but it's, it's paying off. He is bringing the character. He's getting a lot out of the room. And like we've seen and we've been saying, it just looks fun. They're enjoying themselves, and it looks like they are, just having fun playing hockey. So that's what I got to say about that.
I'll add to that a little bit.
You might be muted, Steve.
Oh, go ahead, Steve.
Oh,
I just saw his lips started to move, and no words were coming out. So I was like, ugh.
My bad.
He was yapping. We just didn't have a volume.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I just wanted to add to that point. It's like I feel like the culture has been diminished over the past couple of years, right? And I think you're going to have to bring in a guy who can reestablish the Boston Bruins culture. And I think Sturm is a guy to do that. Whether
Absolutely.
that be for, a year or 5 years, whatever it is. I think, you get the young players in, you establish some sort of, standards and culture in the locker room, and it can be retained through. You went from Claude to, Cassidy, and that culture kind of maintained itself for a while. And then it kind of went, kind of got astray with Monty. And now we're kind of bringing it back together. And I think that's what you need a Sturm character to do, is just bring in, culture.
I agree with that sentiment too. I think Sturm was the right pick. I thought Tocchet would have been the better pick, but after seeing what he's doing in Philadelphia, like limiting Michkov's minutes, I'm glad we didn't get him. So also with respect to Sturm, former Stanley Cup champion. You know what I mean? So that does hold some weight. He knows what it takes to win. He's been there. So that adds value in my mind. Now, this team still has holes, right? And they need to be filled.
We saw it tonight.
For sure. And I thought it was only 2. Now I'm thinking maybe 3 or 4. 4, a bit of a stretch, but I think 2 to 3 at this point. And especially with the injuries, because the team cannot stay healthy. I think there are some serious health considerations here. Arvidsson went out. Aspirot is out. Jordan Harris is still out. Steve, you're just enjoying the way I say out.
Yeah.
It's
the Great White North.
Or just, it's like true Canadian. He's going out.
It's like Cool Whip. It's like that thing from
Brian,
from Family Guy.
Cool Whip?
Wait, what? Why are you saying it like that?
I just want Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
Say whip. Whip. Now say Cool Whip. Cool Whip.
Cool Whip.
But
there's some
these are
holes.
concerns because you don't want to lose these guys. But you also don't want to lose those guys for long-term guys. So do you guys think that they're one of the biggest concerns for the Boston Bruins right now is potentially their injury bug? I mean, look at just to roll them off, right? Or count them off is we had the Hampus Lindholm injury, we had the McAvoy injury, we had the Pasternak injury, we have Yuki Haru, we have a whole bunch of players that are going down. Like you could probably attribute it to a lot of you could probably attribute it to the front loading of some of these games, but also if you look at the back end of the schedule, you might see this again. So do you guys feel like there are some genuine health concerns of the team going forward?
I think you have to, with just the amount of injuries we have. Again, it's all a little bit unlucky at the end of the day. You don't want to get injured, and it's just guys are playing their hearts out, and the game moves so fast. You're gonna get hurt from time to time, and unfortunately, I think the Bruins are just getting a bad spell. So it is what it is, but it's definitely worth noting because we've seen it time and time again. I mean, Arvidsson is hurt for the second time, and for the second time in like a month, and I question, his toughness or whatever. That's not really the best word to put it, but his ability to be able to stay healthy. So yeah, it's worth noting for sure, and you're gonna have to monitor it because there's been that many. So, what do you think, Steve?
I have to attribute it to play style too. I mean, the Bruins, right? Like Big Bad Bruins. Like it's just one of those things where we're not better than other teams. We're right in there because we beat the fuck out of other teams. That's plain and simple. I mean, when they're doing their best, it's when they're playing a big physical game, and it shines, right? Like that's the style of play, and that takes a toll on your body after so many front-loaded games. I don't even care if it's front-loaded. It's just you play, 4 games in a week, all going hard, right? It's just the injuries stack up. It is what it is. It's hockey.
It's definitely the play style for sure. I think that's a really good way to put it, Steve. Yeah, I mean they're playing very hard and aggressive, and the front load and seeing what comes for the schedule. Yeah, you guys are putting it perfectly. It's a little bit unlucky, obviously, but we're playing hard, we're playing fast, we're playing gritty. Piston vinegar. Injuries are going to come out of that. So,
yep, and the thing is too, it's just not going to. I don't think that's necessarily sustainable if you don't know how to manage people,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I'm not saying that Sturm doesn't manage people. It's just, you know, when you're playing 82 games of just, hey, get it deep and pound the shit out of them, and that's just, shit's gonna happen, and it's not always gonna work out for you. Most teams don't play that play style anymore for a reason.
Steve couldn't have said it better because he's right. If you play a very gritty style of hockey, and you too, Jack, like, if you play a very gritty style of hockey, you're going to end up with injuries. Like, if you're trying to, rush to the corners, well, those boards are pretty freaking rough and you're going to get plastered against them. Like, these are men, like, these are heavy duty hockey playing professionals. I do have concerns. I mean, what happened to McAvoy? Freak accident. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
how often is that really going to happen where you get a puck deflected off of your teammate's skate and it goes right into your jaw and then you need to have jaw surgery? Not too often. And if it does happen that often, then maybe there is you're just an unlucky guy. But having a Bruin go down every other week is not something you like to see, especially if you have playoff hopes, because then the playoffs are even harder. You know what I mean? You look at that and it's all or nothing, right? And by the time you reach or a team reaches a Stanley Cup final, who isn't suffering from some form of injury, whether it be a bruised hip or a punctured lung, a broken jaw, it can range. But I definitely agree that there are potential problems on the health front, and it could just be one of those years where the team's caught with the injury bug. Like, that happens. So it just cautions me, if this is the trend, where does that going to take you? And we're going to have a long break in February during the Olympics, so that'll hopefully get everyone healthy, but also you're going to have that large backloaded schedule, so you might just find yourself back in the situation. And so you're right, guys, you brought up very wonderfully, like, how do you manage the players' time? How do you make sure that the guys are getting the appropriate amount of rest in an 82 game season in one of the most physical sports to play? So I think Sturm's doing the best he can, especially with the cap space that they can, right, guys? Like, if you look at the Bruins cap space, super tight. So it's kind of like, how do you got to navigate it, and you got to navigate it very carefully. And that's also on Don Sweeney too. Like, he's got to make some magic happen with the little money that they have available.
Yeah, and it's kind of a snowball effect as well. Once one starts, and then if you see a pattern, it's just going to keep getting worse. So, but yeah, very good, Cam.
Thanks, Boo Boo. Steve, you got something to add?
No, I mean, I guess all of our issues always start with Don Sweeney. That's just
it always goes back to that man, doesn't it?
I mean,
all of Steve's issues.
All Steve's issues go back Sweeney. To one
common denominator, and his name starts, with a D. And it's
Steve is constipated. Don Sweeney.
Yeah.
Steve didn't hit the Powerball. Don Sweeney.
Don Sweeney.
Yep.
If Patriots lost the Powerball, he'd be like, well, that's just luck.
Patriots lost today.
Don Sweeney.
Don Sweeney.
No, I was blaming y'all today for Jason.
No. I'm not involved. That is all the Goosey. Goosey, I'm sorry. You're caught red-handed.
Oh my God. I make one funny TikTok for someone to post after the game, and that's when the Patriots start playing poorly. Yeah, you know what? Fine. Me and
tell him, Steve. Come on, tell him, Steve. Put him in his place.
We can't go there because Steve was so freaking grumpy. I had to message your girlfriend and see how grumpy you were. On a scale of 1 to 10, she put you at an 8.
I told you to wait after the game to have your fun. Okay, the game wasn't in the bag, and as soon as you sent that over, they started giving up everything. Okay, I don't think 20,000 people were thinking the same thing, and they magically just went on TikTok and started making things to preemptively strike at the end of the game. No, this is on you, Cameron. This is on you. Okay,
Cameron. Whoa.
Ooh, I got the first name on me today, buddy. Woo! Oh my goodness!
Yeah, you're in
wow,
trouble. You're in trouble.
Do you think it translate? Do you think that Juju Pitt translated over to the Minnesota game? Because that was fucking bad.
I think so.
It had to. Like,
I think so.
There's correlation there, right?
Correlation doesn't mean causation, but at this time, I think
the causes. This time it does.
His name starts with a C.
Oh man. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
first of all, I don't think.
No, you go.
Well, first of all, I don't think the cap space is necessarily like the injuries related to the cap space. I don't think it's Don Sweeney's fault. I don't think he could have predicted like this many people going down, especially making that much money. You know what I mean? Like that adds complexity to it. But
you can't predict that.
It's an interesting navigation.
Well, I'm not saying in the sense of who you can predict who's getting hurt or whatnot. It's just the awful cap space negotiations that he signs these deals to. It's just Don Sweeney. Again, I don't know what is going on in his mind. It just is what it is. And again, as a GM, you'd expect to think, okay, well, what if this player goes down? What do we do in this case? Right? Like those are the plans A through Z that you need to figure out, because you are the guy who is managing the contracts. You are the guy who's managing the salary cap. You are the guy who is doing this. You should have contingency plans, right? Like that's just.
Let me ask you this:
it's a part of the job.
Well, let me ask you: do you blame Bill Zito for Alexander Barkov going down? Because who would have predicted that one? Like that was in practice. Like, you know what I mean?
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the money aspect of it. We're talking about the guy who's supposed to come up with contingency plans. Okay? Especially when the cap space rule is in effect. You're supposed to be thinking of these things.
Yeah,
your
His
job.
contingency plan, Steve, was Tanner Jeannot.
Good night, guys.
Perfect. Absolute perfection.
The fact, guys, the fact that we know someone, we won't name names, the fact we know someone who thinks he's going to get over 20 goals baffles me. We won't say who. But
We won't
know
say
who you are.
You know who you are, and you know that you're always welcome back on this podcast. We love you, Whitey. But
love you, Whitey. No hate there.
Before I guess we move on to the next topic, I do have some news that I wanted to share, and it's just an update on the stick giveaway and our live holiday special, which is going to be next Monday, December 22nd, during a live show at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please come join us and chat with us, guys, because that is when we're going to announce the stick giveaway. We may even be giving away additional prizes, so make sure you guys show up to that 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Come hang out with us. Watch Steve and Cam throw hands in real life. I mean, real time.
And guess what, guys?
He's
all
on my
three of us. I'm not in your weight class. You're unbelievable. You're unbelievable.
Literally, Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua free version.
Might be slightly more entertaining. We could even get some like baby oil and really make it a little interesting. Too.
I'm gonna sign up for a Diddy party.
No, ain't no party like a Diddy party. Oh.
But no, guys, please just bear in mind on December 22nd, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all three of us are actually going to be in the same room, so we actually will be able to duke it out if we have to. There might be tools available for that. An additional announcement is we are going to have a special individual to announce who won the stick. And the hint is that he was a former Boston Bruin. So make sure you tune in to figure out who that is. So that's the special announcement, guys. It's going to be a fun night. I love Christmas, guys. No one can bring me down. And if you guys hate Christmas, you guys are schmucks. Whatever. I don't have much.
What if they don't celebrate Christmas?
Well, then you guys are just okay.
Then you're just an asshole.
Well, then, yeah, fine. I'll be an asshole. But I'm just saying, like, if you try to bring someone down in the holiday spirit, you can go just puck yourself. I just can't do it. Whatever holidays you celebrate, I hope you celebrate it with the utmost joy. That's all I have to say. Don't bring anybody else down. It's supposed to be a happy time. We're gonna be fucking happy.
Thanks, Dad.
You're welcome. You get coal for Christmas. Yeah, at least in the HiBruiNation stocking, that's what you're getting. With all this talk about our record, the injuries, the teams play up to date because we played 33 games. We're almost at the halfway point, guys. So we can start to speculate on this a little bit. Do you guys think we're looking like contenders or pretenders? And we'll revisit this too after the trade deadline or as the trade deadline approaches, which will be in March. But I think it's a good question just to start now because historically, Thanksgiving used to be the date that you could kind of look at and see like who are the competitive teams. But now let's start that conversation, then we'll continue it on.
On paper, you're contenders. You're in a playoff spot. It's encouraging, but I think it kind of goes with, the points being tight. Is this sustainable? We have that to talk about as well. So it's a matter of going back to things we've talked about this season already. How can this team maintain this success, or how well they've done. Already noting on their playing style, it's pretty tough, and as there's some side effects there, being the injury bugs. So I I'm fairly confident they're contenders, but I was looking at it and I kind of want to say contenders. I'm gonna do the both because it can kind of go either way. I think it's a matter of if they address their needs, find a way to manage playing style and workload, and if they can do all of that, yeah, I'm confident they're contenders. Maybe only for the second round, but this team has fight. They have a will to win. They have gone a lot out of recently, and the guys that they've missed. Well, from the guys that they've missed, the team has shown up and has stepped up. And then the guys coming back this week. We saw how much that benefited, and then we kind of fell flat tonight. But again, back end of a road trip, you're tired. You're playing against a fresh Quinn Hughes away from the cancerous Vancouver Canucks. So yeah, I'm contenders, man. I'm going for it. I want it.
I'm just going to clarify the term. So the contender at this stage means playoff. So you can look at it as Stanley Cup contender or playoff contender. So I'll accept both. So if you're not sold on Stanley Cup contender, you can just say I think you're a contender for the playoffs. So I'll accept both of those answers for people who are wondering, like, are we talking about playoff contention? Or are we talking about Stanley Cup contention? So I'll clarify that. Steve, what do you think?
Coach Avo.
Contenders with a caveat. Definitely contenders for the playoffs, but I think we need to address a few issues here. One, the defense. The defense is so hot and cold. It's just really not working out, right? I mean, you have some good games, but then you have games like tonight where it's just not there.
Yeah.
Mason, the liability Lori, your D man that can't play defense. It's just shocking to me. Jokiharju, also kind of a liability out there, which is shocking to me because I thought he'd actually develop into something this year.
Me too.
It's just, you have those guys you got McAvoy and Zadorov, who was pretty much the only ones who are playing a consistent level of defense, right? You need to
Zadorov, though. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve. Zadorov, though, he still needs to clean up the penalties. That's the only thing I need. Out of that, love his play.
I think he got the first penalties on it.
But also the entire Boston Bruins need to stop being penalty merchants because we are the most penalized team in the NHL. It's atrocious. Correct. It's just you need to lock that down. But I'm worried that this team in the playoffs, the defense won't show up, and you'll leave Swayman out to dry. That's kind of the issue here. There's only so much Swayman can do. I mean, when he has a good game, he has a good game, and he stands on his head. But also a game like tonight where you're expecting him to kind of stand on his head, he's getting no help out front, and it's just not working out. But I mean, I do see them in playoff contention. I do see them as a 2 or 3 seed at the end of the regular season and making a push for the playoffs. But also, if you look back, I kind of want to sit there and say, I want to say that they can make a deep run because they play a hard, heavy, gritty game. And look at Florida. Florida plays the same type of game. And when it boils down to it, you need to compete with the guys who won 2 Stanley Cups in a row and been to 3 in a row. It's just like you need to compete with those guys, and that's the style of play that they're doing, and that stuff is built for the playoffs. So I if they continue playing their game and assuming everyone's healthy, or as healthy as they can be for a playoff team, I don't see why they can't make a deeper run.
Yeah, and I'll just attest on real quick before Cam gives his response. I think you really said that perfectly. Like, your D needs to show up, and especially when it gets to the really tough hockey, spring hockey, you can't leave your goalie out to dry. You can't have 1 to 2 guys really stepping up and playing a solid game while the other guys are scrambling to play defense. I think definitely as it gets closer to springtime, we'll see some changes to the decor or some maneuvers, I think, because you just can't leave your guy out to dry, and you need to have 3 pairs that are willing to lay down the line, and especially in the Bruins case, continue this hard style of play and be able to support it. But Goosey,
Consistency is the king here. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I agree with you guys completely. The defense needs to show up for sure. Just a quick stat for those who are wondering about the penalties, and just to elaborate more on Steve's point that the Bruins are the most penalized team in the league. The Bruins lead the league. Stat time. Snap time. Bruins lead the league in minors taken with 139. This next closest team is Montreal with 124. That is 15 penalty difference.
Oh my
and
God,
Montreal,
it is 15.
I believe Montreal has less games played. That is unacceptable.
It's atrocious.
Unacceptable for a team in playoff contention.
That's awful.
That's all I'm going to say. I agree with you guys that I think that the Bruins are definitely going to target defense at the trade deadline. And they also need a scoring winger as well. And you're like, this will kind of transition us to as well. So if they're going to be contenders, or if they're not quite there yet, what's going to make them the contender? So what are the team needs? I definitely think a winger or 2 on either side, a left wing and a right wing, because I think Lindholm has done his job, Zacha has done his job, Minton has done his job, and Corrali has done their job. I don't think the center depth is as bad as people assume, especially with the face-offs. Because, I'll put it this way, right, guys? I don't necessarily need my center to make all the points. I just need them to be responsible. And I think that's what you look for. Zacha's getting his points. Lindholm is getting his points. Minton is doing a good job as a responsible 2-way forward. So you just need scores on those lines. If you're going to have your center be more of a 2-way guy, which has historically been the Bruins' modus operandi. So that's where we're at. In terms of defense, definitely on the right side, because Yoki Haru is abysmal. Lohrei is a depth guy. And I think once Jordan Harris is back, you can get away with Jordan Harris and Andrew Peeke on the depth. A guy I'm definitely looking for on the defense, if the Bruins will make a play at him, is Rasmus Andersson. And it's because of the money. The money they could easily make work. He makes $4.5 million, 16 no trade lists.
Wow.
So it's just the money. And then someone else also mentioned Justin Falk, but he makes $6 million, and I'm all set on Justin Falk. I'd rather pay $4.5 million for a rental, knowing that we'll have the money to potentially re-sign him, but I'm not going to give a whole bunch up for him. So I would just call Calgary and see what they're willing to give. In terms of the scoring wingers, Connor Garland's name has been tossed around. The Bruins seem to love him. I'm kind of okay with him. I don't see a full need for him, especially with Lysell. I just would like to see them give Lysell a chance. But I do think in some capacity the Bruins definitely need a winger. But again, it's all about how making the money works. Jack.
Yeah, I'm with you, Cam. They definitely a little bit more bolstered, I think. Ideally, a right wing defenseman to help out with what Yoki Haru is doing, maybe a left defenseman too, to put Lohrei in a more depth position until the guy figures out how to play defense. And
Jordan Harris. It would be Jordan Harris.
That
would be my pick.
Yeah, no. I like that as well. I want him to come back and get a decent shot, because he looked good. And so I like that. And I don't hate Connor Garland. I don't know how much that would really make an impact, but if anything, Yeah, I'm right with you, Goosey. You got to give Lysell a shot. So, and we have a great surplus at center, but they're playing responsibly, putting up good minutes. So if we can get a little bit of help on defense, a scoring winger,
Words are
and
hard.
yeah, they are. And Swayman continues playing his play. We're in great shape. Better shape maybe.
Before we turn it to Steve, I do want to say like Matthias Michelli is also another option. He's in Toronto, and that experiment has not worked out to what they would think. And I think he would be a little bit cheaper than Connor Garland.
Fuck it, let's get another player from Toronto.
Yeah,
let's steal another one.
Steve's worked out, Minton worked out, so I'm okay with taking anyone from Toronto. I'm also okay with taking anyone from Buffalo, because apparently anyone who gets players from Buffalo just becomes Stanley Cup champion. So I'm okay with that. Steve.
Yeah. Oh no, we'll just say quick too. I think Rasmus and that's a better rental as well than Falk. He's older and is kind of running out of time. And yeah, I like that as well. Chavo.
I think Anderson would be a better suit in my opinion, because we're kind of developing the culture again, right? And we're kind of getting players to buy in. We all know what last year looked like, and you kind of do mostly a complete 180. And it's not as hard to get guys interested in this team, right? Where it's like, oh, we're in a playoff position as it sits right now. Like adding let's say adding Anderson, you could really help out the team, and we're hoping to sign you long term and shore up our defense. And if we guarantee you, top 4 minutes, whatever the deal would be, right? I mean, it's just it's a better outlook for the future, because you kind of need to get rid of some of the dead weight on the team and free up some of that cap space, but also look for the future. And I think that would be a better piece to do such a thing. But you need help on defense. I just said it. You really do. Lori, you guys are really, he's a depth piece, whatever. I don't think so. If the Boston Bruins can't make a guy learn defense as a defenseman, what hope do you have in the NHL? I just don't. I don't get it. I mean, the Bruins are known for making goalies really good and making defensemen really good. I just don't know how he's just not getting it. I don't know how a defenseman is not getting how to play defense. And that's just, it is what it is. I guess I know he's young, but also
more inexperienced, I would say, than like other guys at his rate. I mean, again, he's someone who's switched positions. I don't think that's much of an excuse. It's been some time since he switched back from forward to D, but he's clearly trying to pick up some strides still. And it's tough.
And also, I mean, I'm not necessarily out to get another winger when you have a handful of guys down in Providence that deserve a fucking shot in the league to help you out with your scoring opportunities. Why spend money that you can't really afford to when you already have these guys on contract for cheap money and you can just bring them up? It's just Lysell, great example. He's killing it down in Providence and they still haven't brought him up. And it's like, he could be a piece for a forward piece that makes an impact and scores, right? Like, why go out and reach and grab someone when you already have somebody that's there? It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. But again, defense, I'll take one defenseman and I'll hopefully a Lysell bring up, and that'll make a huge difference. And a healthy peak would also really help out.
Agreed.
I definitely like the idea of bringing up Lysell. It's just, where do you put him? That's the biggest question, because then you have Arvidsson. So it's like, when Arvidsson's healthy, because you're gonna have to justify that $4 million signing in some capacity. So he's definitely gonna play, but I would prefer. I like the line of Middlestat, Zaka, and Arvidsson. There's something about it that's just been working, or they've just been neutral on their shift. But it's like, if you had to get rid of a guy and you had to keep people, you could always do Geeky, Lindholm, Pasta. And then, you can have Middlestat, Zaka, and Arvidsson. But then I would really, really like to see, Minton and Lysell. It was a good line in preseason, man. I just really want to see it. I would like them to find a way to work Steves into the lineup somehow, maybe on the fourth line, because Steves honestly has been doing a great job. He scored a goal tonight against Minnesota. So, I wouldn't hate putting him on the fourth line because, again, if you have a guy like Corrali, again, a responsible two-way forward, a banging power forward in the form of Kostelic, you're missing a scoring winger. And I think Steves would bring something to that. So there's multiple iterations that you could do. And I would just be concerned about, if they go for a scoring winger, what's the cost, right? So that's the other thing that you're going to need to think about going into the trade deadline or when you're trying to improve this team come that time if you think you have a good chance. What are the costs of these players? Anderson, I think, would cost you the most because he is, I think, their number one D-man. So you have to think about that. Calgary's going to want a lot for him, not as much as they're going to get from Quinn Hughes, but you're definitely looking at, probably Lohrei, Yoki Haru, if they're willing to take both of them, and probably a pick or some young stud forward or probably Patra. You're going to have to pay for a guy like him. And so you also have to weigh, is that worth it? Personally, the Bruins have a surplus in center. I'm okay with giving them, maybe Marat Husnudinov, or I would consider Patra. It depends. But if I'm going to give Patra, then Rasmus Anderson has to come with an extension. I'm not giving Patra or a high-end talent without guaranteeing that Rasmus Anderson will be locked up for a while here. That's the only thing that I would be worried about in overpaying for a guy like him in terms of a rental.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And just to say, Steves is, and they said in the broadcast tonight, he's giving the Bruins every reason to not take him out of the lineup. Words are hard, but he's just been playing great and showing up, every game. And there was a quote from him, I think, that he's been working his tail off for the last 10 years to get to just this spot, and it's showing. So, he's given them a reason for them to not take him out of the lineup. And I like that pick of him on the fourth line as well with those guys. I think he can provide some speed and scoring as well. He's got a nice finish. Again, he scored tonight, and he's a little crafty. So I like the guy.
I like him too. He's consistent. Since he's been in the lineup, he's been nothing but consistent. And that's consistency pays out more than the hot and cold. It is what it is. You need a guy you can consistently rely on. And I don't want him I want him in the lineup because, again, every opportunity he's been given, he has not squandered it. And he's been very responsible, and he's been very, again, consistent. Biggest word with him. It's just, at what cost? You're shuffling the lines like you're Matty Patra take, right? You need to make people pay. Again, Don Sweeney's keeping these kids down for whatever reason, right?
It's so annoying.
And I guys, I will jump off the Tobin Bridge if we let young players who have talent walk for basically nothing, then become superstars on other teams. I will jump off the Tobin.
Brandon Bussey is a perfect example, dude. You see?
Oh my God!
Albeit, I'll say this. Albeit, Carolina is a phenomenal team. Rod Brindamore is a phenomenal coach.
Of course, he's getting the most out of him.
But just to watch a guy that you didn't even want to give an opportunity to, and good for Brandon. I'm really glad that Brandon is getting his opportunity in the NHL. But it goes back to what I said. I do not like letting talents. I can't remember if he was a UFA or RFA. I can't remember that off the top of my head. But I don't like letting those guys walk for free. I think he was an RFA too. It's the same thing with Oliver Wahlstrom. Yes, Oliver Wahlstrom has struggled heavily to try and sustain, an NHL presence. But even then, look at Patrick Brown that you have down in the AHL. He's a guy that offers other young guys a pathway because they've been there. They know what it takes to get there. So it's just a presence in the locker room. And you could assign him on a league minimum deal. It's I just don't like giving away players for free that have utility. Wahlstrom might have been a poor example of that, but Bussy, oh God, but Bussy, was one of those.
You did not just say Bussy. You did not just
sorry, Brandon Bussy. I can't. I'm sorry, Brandon, if for whatever reason you listen to this, and I'm sorry to our audience for saying that. But Brandon Bussy is just a primary example of the risks you take by just letting players walk for free. And I agree with Steve 100%. It's no question for me.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
it's just,
Jack struggled on that one.
I did. No, well, I was trying to think of the stat line. It's a little bit different now, but because it's, I think maybe a few games had passed, but it was like, and I sent it in the group chat. He now his first, he won his first 10 out of his 11 starts. It was like a random start, but random stat, but he was on a tear and he won so many games and he was dominant and he came up on my X feed and I was like, because again, that's just a guy who you didn't really give a real shot to. They gave him, a shot enough, playing a little bit in the preseason here and there or whatever, and starting a few games, I think. But yeah, it just goes back to a narrative, of the Bruins and how they're mishandled some players of past, so and in present and future. Hopefully not future, but
I'll tell you what, I'd rather Brandon than Korpisalo right now.
I think anyone would. I think Goosey would be happy if he didn't have to see Corpy in that again.
Listen, I'll give credit where credit is due. Corpy can have spurts during a game, but I don't think Corpy wins you those tough games sometimes. I do feel like the defense does play a little bit stronger under Corpy, and they don't lean on him as much as they definitely lean on Swayman. But but they also have DiPietro and Zajac down in Providence, and right now I believe both of them are among the top 5 in AHL goalies right now. So I mean, leverage them if you have to. Like, you know what I mean? You have Swayman locked up. He's gonna be your number one. So like,
Steve's not that happy about that. He what do you think, bud?
No, I agree. Steve definitely wouldn't want them to like go away. But like, if they're part of a trade that can get you a very quality guy that does move the needle for you, then I'm fine with that, because the reality is they're not going to outperform Swayman. They're not,
and they're not losing him for nothing.
I don't need them to outperform Swayman. I need them to outperform Korpisalo. Again, if we've talked about this a couple times where the quote unquote load management for Swayman, right? You need a guy who can realistically pick up the slack when there is slack. A DiPietro, Brandon, he's just the fact is, I'm not trying to sell away my future because we have Swayman locked down. What if he gets injured? Like, you know what I mean? Like the fact is, you have two. You might want to get rid of one of them. I'm keeping DiPietro, especially with the Korpisalo bullshit. I'm not. Again, what happens if Corp gets hurt? What happens if Swayman gets hurt? There's things that happen in years of seasons, right, where you need to still continue to look out for your future. You can't sell your future short, or else we're going to have a repeat of last year.
Yeah.
I would be okay with moving on from DiPietro because Zajac is looking like a steal. So I would be okay with that, but again, it would have to be moving him for a piece that is a needle mover for me. I mean, I personally would like to move on from Korpisalo because again, that's $3 million in dead money in my opinion. I think he's done okay. It's just like, we're talking about like what could make the team better, So if it means getting Anderson and they're like, well, we want a backup for Dustin Wolf. And they're like, DiPietro's the kind of guy that we're looking at. I'd be like, okay, that's fine. But what else do you want? Again, it goes back to cost benefit. What are the costs and what are the assurances for like rentals like Rasmus Anderson, who's only 29, that we can retain him? That's going to be my question, because I don't think the Bruins are going to win the Stanley Cup this year. But I think getting a guy like Rasmus Anderson to be paired with Zadorov will make you that much better. Maybe not the best, but it definitely makes you better. So it comes back to costs. I think the Bruins definitely need to improve on those areas, like the defense, particularly the right side, because that's where the weaknesses is. Because behind McAvoy, Peak is not an RD2. He's an RD3.
He's solid, but
he's a solid RD3. He's not.
Yeah.
He's not a RD2. And then, you need a scoring winger. Would that be Lysell? I would like to see him have his opportunity. Could you get personally, my priority is a left wing, particularly on the first line, because as much as I love Geeky on there, not on a Stanley Cup winning team. On a Stanley Cup winning team, you're looking at Geeky with the way he's performing right now, second line. But
Yeah,
those are my priorities for the Bruins. And clearing up a little bit of cap space as well, because I think this is another decent free agent class. I mean, I think most of the big names came off the board already, but still, there's still some decent names out there that you can kind of look at to help bolster the team a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. Do we move to Big Bad Bruin, or have any other thoughts we want to go for the topics?
Yeah, we're actually going to talk about the Stadium Series jerseys.
Oh, that's right. How could I forget?
Because in case you guys lived under a rock, the NHL decided to reveal the Stadium Series jerseys, not during a Tampa Bay Bruins game or anything like that, just randomly on ESPN during the first intermission of a Flyers Vegas Golden Knights game. Why? I can't tell you.
Because that makes sense for NHL marketing. Well, I mean, maybe actually.
I don't know.
But you want to grow the game. You want to get an outreach, reach other, sectors and whatever. And, and obviously, their Bruins are not really loved across the league, but it helps get out there. I don't know. I don't know what went behind it.
And before we fully address it, I just want to say those jerseys are disgustingly ugly. I can't stand it. The piss like yellow. Yeah, the piss yellow or mustard, which I wouldn't mind if the primary logo was different. Like if they put the B with the bear claw on it as the primary logo, way better. Way better. And whoever designed the Tampa Bay Lightning, I would have preferred the pirate head with the lightning bolt on the skull as the primary logo. These people need to be fired for making bad jerseys. And I get it. You're going to
what's the thought process behind it? Like what's the design? Like
they said it was inspired by football because Stadium Series, right? So sure, it makes sense. I just I don't know, man. I don't know.
Not a good.
You guys take it away.
Yeah, no, it was weird timing, and I'd forgotten that they were doing a Stadium Series, so I was like, oh, okay, that's good to know. But yeah, I mean, I can see like if it's being styled more after a stadium, football-esque, then sure. But if it just gives off like a bad look, and a lot of people are like, and which it seems online, a lot of people are feeling that way or mixed feelings, then yeah, I just wonder. I don't know. This is a topic I didn't really think about much. I kind of saw the jerseys and I was like, all right, those are interesting, I guess, but I think that's really all you can put to them. Really, they're not all that intriguing, and they're kind of ugly. So
they're hideous. And I'll give credit where credit's due. I do like aspects of the jersey. I do like the B on the shoulders with the bear claw, right? I actually do like the Boston logo with the bear, but that yellow mustard jersey color is just not it. Now,
not it.
It's just not it at all. I mean, you saw the whole kit, the whole uniform. It's just not it. I mean, it's gross. And you know what? Thank you, Boston Bruins, and thank you, NHL, for not making me want to spend money on another Bruins jersey that is ugly as shit. And I appreciate it. It's just, I just don't like it. I mean, the B with the claw is nice. I do like that Boston logo with the bear on it. I do, but the color is just horrible. And you take that B with kind of a more of a golden color that might work. They take that old school logo with the Boston and the bear on it on maybe a black jersey, and kind of do something with that. I like it, but the whole we're inspired by football stadiums. It's like nothing about those two jerseys scream football to me. It just half-assed, in my opinion. It just screams out half-assed. And whoever made those should be fired. Honestly, it's just they're hideous. It's going to be an eyesore.
I agree with Steve that there are definitely there's definitely aspects for both of those jerseys that I love. It's just the primary design I think could have been a lot better. I understand
and the color choice.
I'm going to touch on this. I actually like or understand the idea of the color choice because you're playing in Florida. It's going to be nighttime, but it's going to be hot. Like you got to think like it's still probably going to be relatively hot. How they're going to maintain the ice, I don't know. The technology is very advanced, so I'd imagine it's going to be done very well. But darker colors tend to retain heat, so I understand the color choice, but I think the execution of the primary logo design was done poorly. To me, the jersey, at least for the Bruins, feel more like a Nashville Predators jersey. It feels like one of those kind of things. And like, it's nothing against the Nashville Predators. I love their jersey. I love their primary logo, but it's not the color I was anticipating. Cause like, when they had the outdoor games, the Bruins had the yellow jerseys, and it was probably because they were concerned about in the sun, if the color retained heat. Like, these players are playing at an elite level, right? You want them to be safe. I just wish the logo was different. So it's just, for me, it's the logo design. That's just about it.
Well, listen, they've spent millions upon millions of dollars to figure out how to heat the ice in a hot ass Texas day, right? And they figured it out. They have they have that technology. I'm not worried about that. Also,
they're going to heat the ice
or cool the ice.
You said
whatever
they're going to heat the ice.
Heat the ice, cool it off, whatever. Who gives a shit?
Wear your rollerblades.
Yeah, listen, roller hockey's a couple months away. We're good. But at the end of the day, the night, it's at night. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. And you know what? Florida has been pretty freaking cold as of late in the winter times. I mean, there was a couple of weeks where it was colder in Florida than it was in Boston. It shouldn't matter. It's just, again, the whole thing about it seems half-assed, and I don't like it. It's just, no, I'm not spending money on it at all.
I know my girlfriend will definitely be glad that I don't like the jerseys, because I think if she sees one more jersey in my closet, I might be hanging with them. So,
Jesus.
Yeah, she's gonna like hang me up to dry in the closet. I don't know, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the game because I really want to see what they do. Like outside, I that's going to be the part that excites me the most. What's just going to be painstakingly awful to look at are those jersey colors under those bright white lights. That's going to be a pain to look at.
Eyesore. And you know what? You said that the jersey reminds you of Nashville Predators, dude. It reminds me of a beer league, just a shitty put together beer league jersey. That's really what it looks like to me. It's not even a D3 college hockey, club hockey. Like it doesn't look professional at all. I'm sorry. It's just, that's my honest opinion.
Speaking of beer league, I'm coming for you, Jack. Coming for
I can't wait to kick your fucking ass. I'm gonna bury you in the ground.
Championship game. I'm gonna fucking rub your nose in it.
You're gonna fuck me up. You're gonna fuck me up real good.
No, I can't hit you. It's a no-hit league. I'm just gonna rub your nose in it.
You guys are
okay, I'll pull off your fishbowl, kiss that sweet face. What?
Good. I like it.
Oh gosh, not too much about beer league. Yeah.
Let's go on to the Big Bad Bruin of the week. It's one of my favorite segments where we get to pick our favorite Bruin who we felt like excelled or rose above expectations. This week was a little bit hard. It was a 2-1 week, especially recording this after the Minnesota loss. It definitely
dampened a little bit
of a struggle. Yeah, it dampened it a little bit. So this pick is definitely more geared towards the first two games. I'm going to go with Fraser Minten because I like the kid. He's young, 21 years old, 2 goals against St. Louis. Had Pasternak on the line to kind of help that out a little bit. Again, I just think it's a little bit of a scapegoat to kind of go with your top players sometimes, even though like this week was impressive for some of them. I just have to give some credit to the bottom 6 in that St. Louis game because they definitely came to play, and Fraser Minten was definitely someone I kept my eyes on. So for me, solid week. So Fraser Minten's mine.
It's a good pick. I He had
Good
a tough
answer,
game.
Steve. Good answer.
Good answer.
No one ever see Family Feud. There we go.
No, don't worry. I know some things.
Oh, he gets that reference.
Yeah, funny enough. He had a tough game against Minnesota. He was kind of left out to dry, as I already said. But Mr. Swayman, I've picked him before, but I'm gonna pick him again. He is if he continues to play as he is and stand on his head at times, he's making a real case for the Vezina, with his strong play. There's some other good goalies around the league as well, but I think not a lot can compare to his dominance and competitiveness and his swagger. His swagger has fully returned. And as I've said in a previous podcast, like, this is the Swayman that we want. And today was a rough showing, but you're gonna have those nights. But I'm pretty confident to say he's gonna bounce back and he's gonna keep leading the charge for us. He is a funny guy, has a great personality. Everyone seems to love him in the room. And yeah, it was hard for me to see how much he was struggling in his head last year, because you could see his flashes and thinking he was maybe going to turn around, but he just never was able to turn the heel, and but Mr. Swayman, man, he's always standing up tall and had a tough game today, but I love the man. Keep doing you, buddy.
Before Steve goes, I'm going to actually back Jack up on this. For those of you who wonder
Really,
why,
you're actually going to back me up for something.
I am going to. Yeah, I know. There's a first time for everything. Listen, a broken clock is right twice a day. This is just your second time, so careful.
Oof.
For those of you who are wondering, like, why would you pick Swayman after such a poor performance? And I mean, it's kind of if you look at the overall numbers, if you look at the overall numbers, Jeremy Swayman is still number 3 in all goaltenders with goals save above expected. He is still playing phenomenal hockey despite letting up 6. And you can't really say all those goals were his fault. I mean, the Bruins just didn't play. So I'm going to back Jack up. I'm going to say that Jeremy Swayman is a good pick despite having the bad game against Minnesota. And we saw it against Detroit. When you get pulled, it's not about that. It's about how you respond. And so far, every time stuff like this has happened, he has responded. So I'm going to give Jack, a good quality pick there. I mean, he has. So it's now, after this game, what does he do? And I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and it is definitely about his response. And, if it's not a great response and there's some...
And he's buffering. Steve, why don't you go?
Yeah, honestly, no, Swayman's a good pick. Despite the showing today, Swayman's a solid pick for this week. He did show up. We're looking for a response game against Utah. That's if he plays. He might get a day rest against Utah. We'll see. But you mentioned this before. You're looking out for the third line or the bottom sixers. Who you mentioned St. Louis? Who was on the bottom 6? Who's on the bottom 6, Cam?
David Pastrnak.
Exactly. And that's who I'm going with. I'm going with David Pastrnak because guess what? It doesn't matter who he plays with. He makes an impact up and down the lineup. And you know what?
I agree.
That was his first game back. His second game back, how many points did he have, Cam? 4? Was that correct?
I think he had 7 points in 2 games.
7 points in 2 games. Yeah. After an injury with managed minutes in one of those games. Yeah.
Listen,
I'm going this week.
I'm not going to disagree with you. No, there are definitely cases where I agree with you. Like saying like the Geekies, the McAvoys, the Pasternaks. Like, yeah, absolutely. And like, I will admit, Pastrnak was my original choice, but I feel like your superstars are superstars, and it was not a bad. Your pick isn't bad. For me, it's just I went with Minton. I love the Pastrnak pick. 7 points in 2 games, phenomenal. 100% agree with you there. Great pick.
I tried plugging my computer in, and then it just went haywire. So I'm sorry about that. I don't know what the fuck happened.
We are experiencing technical difficulties.
I hope you guys covered me.
Steve. Steve just got done explaining why David Pastrnak was his pick, and it's a good pick. So if you have anything to add to that, Jack, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's always a good pick. I mean, I think just this week too with his stat line, 7 points during those 2 first games of him coming back. That's pretty incredible. That's an amazing stat line, and that just shows how much he adds to your team. He wasn't that helpful tonight, but I don't think many people were that helpful tonight. But listen, Pasternak's a good pick. I think he always will be.
Sweet.
And I'm going to defend
Nice,
it by
okay.
saying
Yep.
this: the fact that he came back after injury, missing all those games, and putting up 7 points in 2 games. That's why I'm going with it. That's impressive to me. If he put up, a point, 2 points, okay, he's working back into it. But he came back and it doesn't look like he missed a beat. That's why it's so impressive.
No, definitely, yeah. And you can see by his
agree.
points, it was like he didn't miss anything. So
I agree. And it's not to my pick or Jack's pick. It's not to discredit Pasternak either or any of the Bruins that have played. It's just like, I personally try to challenge myself to see who else is also picking up the slack, where other players can't. And, especially with Pasternak coming back from injury, like Steve said, if he got 1 or 2 points and working himself back into it, who else is going to pick that up? And, obviously Pasternak came back and steamrolled ahead. So I love the pick, Steve. It's a good pick. You're not gonna get a complaint out of me at all from that. So great picks all around, guys. In my opinion,
great.
It was the great. It was great. It was the greatest. It was the best. The best.
It was the greatest. It was the best.
It was the greatest. Pasternak. And yeah, again, 2-1 week. This week, let's see what the Bruins have this week because they got a 4-game schedule. They got Utah on Tuesday. Edmonton Thursday, Vancouver Saturday, and Ottawa on Sunday.
Great lineup to have for a live show. Honestly, we're gonna have a lot to talk about. So,
yeah, honestly, for sure.
Yeah,
4 games. That's a lot. They're all 7:00 games.
They're all home.
Jack, congratulations on actually retaining a record of over 50% for the first week I think ever in your HiBruiNation tenure.
thanks to you though.
Well, those are the rules. If you are absent 1 week, you take the picks, I believe, of the person who was previously in first place. I know Steve and I were tied, but I think I had it before Steve, so you took mine. Otherwise, you would have taken Steve's. We're glad to see, obviously, that you're doing better and healthier. So that's good. We love to see that. I'm going to be pretty brief with mine. I have a win against Utah. They lost Logan Cooley. But Dylan Guenther is still a threat, but I think the Bruins have a good chance against Utah. Edmonton, I have a loss because they just traded for Tristan Jarry, and they're playing better with him. They did lose Brett Kulak, but I think Edmonton is starting to pick up steam a bit here. And you have to respect Connor McDavid, and with the way the Bruins played against Minnesota, this past night, that's where I think Edmonton's going to take the win. Vancouver, I have a win for obvious reasons because Vancouver is awful. Awful. Even though despite getting Ziv Bouillon, who, by the way, also scored a point, I believe, in his first game with Vancouver. I believe it was a goal. And then Ottawa, I have a loss. They just seem to have had our number, and we just can't seem to dance around them. So that's just it. It's short, sweet for me. So I'm doing a 2-2 record on the week. Jack, why don't you take it away with yours?
Oh, Mr. Perfect picked over here. No, not actually. Yeah, I
50% is a perfect.
No, it's not. I was really mentioning this past week it being perfect, but yeah, that just me and picks haven't gone great. I don't know what it is, but I think there's a win against Utah. I think they're pretty beatable, and yeah, if they're missing Logan Cooley as well, I think that really dampers them. So and actually, live here on HiBruiNation, I will be at another Bruins game. I'll be at the Utah game with a few beer league buddies. So that's going to be fun. Get to see another live game. Hoping the boys have a good effort. So I think they should. So a pretty solid win against Utah. Edmonton, yeah, I think
the boys I said sick fucking invite.
Sorry, you want to hang out with a 31-year-old.
Wow.
Sorry. I'm kind of dissing Steve with that too. That's not nice.
Uninvited.
I'm getting kicked
First
off the
time
pod.
you guys are going to witness a firing on a HiBruiNation.
Oh God. And against Edmonton, yeah, I think they're picking up some steam. I mean, they've had their issues this season. I mean, it's Edmonton. They're, McDavid, man, you can't really ever bet against him. And I think Draisaitl's closing in on 1,000 points as well. So, I think that could be a tight game, but I think Edmonton is going to squeeze a win out there. Vancouver, yeah, they are in a bad place right now. Vancouver fans, management, the team is probably trying to recoup a little bit after losing their captain. So if we play our game, we should make easy work of them. And even though he helped me get to 100% this last week, I'm trusting my gut, trusting my pick, even though it's hasn't really helped me out before. But I think they're going to match up well against Ottawa. I think they're going to come out flying, and that's going to be a tight game as well because we have just played them really tightly this season. It's like they've had a number, but I think they're going to turn the script. And apparently I'm fired, but we're not going to touch more on that. I love you, Cammy. I'm sorry. Don't hate me.
It's all love,
fun.
It's all love.
I know. But I'm listen. I'm going to be turning a quarter century next year. I really can't talk much. So
You old fuck, you geriatric fuck.
Fuck.
God.
Steve, what do you got, buddy? The Chavo.
Win against Utah. We're looking for a response game, bounce back game at home. We got a home stand. We got to make these count, right?
Definitely.
I'm going with the loss against Edmonton. I don't want to, but it's Edmonton. They're picking up steam, right? Again, you just mentioned that they've had their issues, and they have, but it seems to me in the past couple weeks, they're picking up steam. And don't bet against McDavid.
Yeah, they do at one point in the season, which has been the narrative for them the last few years. I'll just say it's like they're muddling, maybe even sucking for a little bit, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yep,
back to the final.
Everything starts clicking, and it just is what it is.
Yeah.
What did I write down for this next one? Can't remember. Vancouver, obviously a W because it's Vancouver and they are on the struggle bus. They're actually driving the struggle bus this year. And it's just, this is what it is. And against my better judgment, I'm going to put a win down for Ottawa.
Let's go.
For a W for that one. Listen, they've had our number this year, but fourth time's a try or a charm, right? It's just something's got to give where you've had enough time to play against this team where the coaching staff can look at it and evaluate what's going on. I'm looking at 3 in 1 week. It's just you need to keep the points tight, and what better opportunity than winning against a Atlantic opponent? You got to make something happen. It's just you got to make something happen. And it's wishful thinking on my part. I won't be surprised if they lose, but I'm going to win.
Bold. Going with the same picks as Jack.
He might regret it. He's probably going to regret it.
I mean, for the most part, guys, we agree for the most part on 3 of the 4 games. So, again, good reasonings, I think, for all of them.
I think Ottawa's the toss-up. Ottawa's that toss-up, though, because, that's
Ottawa,
just been a weird matchup.
I agree 100%. Ottawa could be a toss-up. You could either get a really good Ottawa team on fire that night. The only thing is it's the second game on a back-to-back. That's the only thing that has me thinking of a loss. So that's about it. And I wonder who starts that game. So if it's Swayman, I could see it being a win. If it's Korpisalo, I think it's a loss. But, time will only tell. Guys, final thoughts before we close out this episode.
Keep the vibes going. Watch that injury bug. I think it really matters how this coaching staff maintains their players, the room, and fill in the spots that need to be filled. And as long as my boy Swayman stands tall. Wow. I think that's time for me to sign off. As long as he stands tall. Jeez. We're going to be fine. Keep it going. Keep the points close. Java.
Response game. This week is about response. You're on home territory. You got to make these wins count. Also, shout out to the Matthews Arena to closing after 115 years in Boston.
Oh, I didn't know
that place will be missed. I've played there a few times, and it's a historic building. And I'm looking forward to seeing what new monstrosity Northeastern is going to build in its place.
Solid, guys. All right. Well, guys, that's going to do it for episode 57 of the HiBruiNation podcast. Go check out our Go check out our website, don'tpuckwithmedia.com for all of our blogs, game recaps, and much, much more, and all of our other articles. Connect with us on Twitter, Bluesky, TikTok, YouTube, and through our website. You can actually message us through our website. That's pretty cool. For your thoughts to be heard on our episodes, podcasts, or you can send us a voice memo too, and we will play it here, and we will address it here. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe to all of our platforms. And as always, we love you guys, and we hope to see you next week for our live holiday special. It's going to be the first time that all three of us are going to be together in the same room. There might be a brawl. There might not be. Jack might not be there because he got fired. Like, we're going to be having a fun time. So please join in for that. But until next time, guys, go Bruins.